Hey, welcome to Light Cellar Radio. My name is Malcolm Saunders, helping you recreate your relationship to food, access the ultimate in everyday nourishment through natural foods. In this episode, we dive deep into the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods. This was a live Facebook recording, and we had some interaction, some questions, some comments. Have a listen, enjoy. We'll see you on the other side. Okay, we are live. Facebook, Instagram, hello. It is the season. We're going to be talking fermentation. It's fermentation time, although really, when it can be fermentation anytime, right? Every time of year should be fermentation, but most especially it should be during the fall. Fall really is, it truly is fermentation time. So in this live video, we're going to go into the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods. So we're live on Facebook. We got Anita, joining us on Facebook. We got Annalie, hello, welcome. Yeah, diving in. Post your questions, comments down below anytime as we're going through this. And because it is fermentation time, we're going to kind of kick off a series of live videos, really going in depth. So if I don't answer your questions this time, this conversation, I'll be bringing on some other special guest experts that we're going to feature throughout the coming weeks. And really what this is all leading up to is the Calgary Fermentation Festival that the Light Cellar is putting on in combination with some other amazing experts. So if you're able to make it to that, it's going to be awesome. Stay tuned. And if you're not in Calgary, if you can't make it, keep staying tuned because we're going to keep doing these videos. You're going to see a lot of experts. So tomorrow is Dr. Melina Roberts. She will be my guest tomorrow. We're going to be talking about fermentation. So we got more people joining on. Essential Wellness Yoga, Sugar Tree, hello. We've got Lynn, we have Brent, we got everyone joining on. So anytime, just post your comments down below. So the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods. What are they? Well, there's so many. Let's start with number 1. And this is the priority. This is just some of the benefits why I think you should get into fermenting, because I like to say, do nothing else. Change nothing about your diet. Add in fermented foods and your health will improve. That's it. It's that simple. It's that easy. That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it. That's not one of the benefits, but it is, right? It's one of the main reasons why you want to add it in. So what are those benefits? What are those top things? All right. So they are a functional food. And what I mean by that, why I was referencing the fall and the autumn and this time of year being the main time of year that we want to be focusing on ferments, because it plays a function in preserving the food. How many of you guys got gardens? Give me some thumbs up, give me some hearts, give me like garden emojis, whatever it is you got, type it in. If you're a gardener, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, maybe this was already 2 weeks ago for you, right? As the frost swept through Calgary and we were like scrambling to harvest what we could. This fermentation is one of the key reasons why it has been done in the past, right? And it's also, I did a post a couple weeks back with a friend Stan, and he brought up this interesting point. I've often reflected on it as well, that one of the reasons when we went off, why are we having so many problems with our health in this culture, in this society? And one of the points that we talked about was refrigeration. Because once we had refrigeration, once we had shipping, once we had trucking, once we had, 24/7 grocery stores and this whole industrialization of our food system, some of us got into our mind, in decades past, like, oh, well, we don't need to ferment, right? There was a function to fermentation as an absolute necessity just to store away the food, right? And then refrigeration came along and we're like, oh, maybe we don't need to do this. There are other methods. We can use our refrigerator, we can truck, we can ship. And big mistake. It's, as humans, sometimes we need to go all the way to that end of the pendulum swing, take a wrong turn and then go, whoops, oh, that's why we were doing that. So absolutely, there's a function, a preservation of the harvest, whether it's your carrots, whether it's your cabbage, or it's the fruits, whatever it is, there's an abundance of a particular food at one time, and we need to be able to preserve it. And fermentation has played that role throughout time, throughout history. So there's there's a major function there. So that's one of the main benefits to fermentation. And we're going to talk about getting into fermenting your own foods and the fun that it is. But there's a function there, absolutely, to preserving these foods. Next would be, ultimately, it is foundational to your health. So the second F in the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods, foundational to your health. And again, I think as a culture, as a society, North America, us kind of modern humans, right? We're one of the only cultures, I'd say we are the only culture that veered too far off the path, moving away from fermented foods. And we've seen the results, right? And fortunately now, many of us are going, whoa, wait a minute. They play such a key role. So I teach about the 4 food groups, not the ones you learned in school, not those Canada Food Guide. No, not those ones. Something a little bit more interesting, diverse, and actually true and actually real. If you look at every single culture around the world, except for a modern Western standard American diet culture, they all ferment. Every culture has a culture. It's foundational not only to who they are and what defines them, you could say, right? Food is a part of who we are and our identity. And we look at other cultures and go, interesting. And we can, part of how we experience cultures is eating their foods, eating their ferments. So it is this idea that it's foundational to our health. So one of the 4 food groups that I teach is bacteria, fermented foods, absolutely essential. And it is key, not only, and it's for many reasons. So let's dive into those reasons. How do fermented foods benefit us? Well, one of the ways is that foods, there's a lot that we actually can't digest as humans, right? Cows actually can't digest grass either. Even though that's the main food in their diet, they have 4 stomachs, and it's the bacteria that breaks down that cellulose, breaks down the grass, and then they're able to actually digest and absorb those nutrients. Humans are the same, right? We don't have 4 stomachs. Yeah, you could argue we've got kind of 2 chambers, but one of the main benefits, one of the reasons that humans ferment, and which is why I said at the beginning, do nothing else. Do nothing else for your health. Don't change your diet. Just add in fermented foods and you will notice a benefit. You will notice an increase in your health. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why we're putting on the Calgary Fermentation Festival. That's why we teach classes at the Light Cellar, to get you empowered, get you inspired with fermenting, whatever it is. And we'll talk about diversity because there are so many different types of fermented foods. Some of them are an acquired taste. If one's not your liking, there's something else, right? So when we ferment our own foods, it becomes pre-digested. And that is one of the main benefits, because there's certain foods that we actually can't digest, or that the way that we have them available in our world, we're not able to digest them. Let's take milk as an example. Let's take wheat as another example. And of course, it's more complex than this. There's a lot of other factors going on, but just give you some food for thought. How many people do you know who can't drink milk? Right? A glass of milk, it's like, I get congested, my skin breaks out. But how many of those people can easily digest cheese? Right? It's been pre-digested. The bacteria, they're doing the work, they're breaking down the food, and then we can more easily, more simply take it in without that burden on our digestive system. And it's actually how we have evolved. Grains, nuts, seeds, fermentation has played a key role in the digestion of that. A lot of people can't do bread, can't do gluten, right? Maybe they're sensitive, maybe they're intolerant. But I bet you most of those people could do sprouted, could do fermented, right? The sourdough, that is key. So that's reason number 2 of the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods. So number 1, there's a function, preserving the harvest, right? This is how we've always done things. Then second, we've just finished talking about they are foundational to our health, including the pre-digestion of those foods. Actually, we're not done that. That's a big one. We got to unpack number 2. So if there's a pre-digestion, right? So easier to digest the food. And with that, with fermented foods becomes enzyme donors, right? Bacteria that actually helps digest the rest of your food. If you think about it, most fermented foods, they're condiments, right? They're on the side of the meal, and they're digestive aids to help digest with the rest of the meal. You know, the sauerkraut on the hot dog, or the miso in the soup, you know, the tempeh, this kind of thing on the side, they come with enzymes, they come with living bacteria that will help on digestion. And here's another thing too, some ferments just have transient bacteria, meaning they're helping a part of the digestive process, and then you eliminate them, right? They say our stool is mostly dead bacteria, just passes right through, but some are actually become a part of your microbiome, right? So how do you increase your microbiome? How do you get more of these living bacteria in that are so foundational to your health? Well, it's through fermented foods, right? You start off in life inheriting your microbiome from your mother. When you're in the womb, you're in a sterile environment until the water breaks, right? Once the water breaks, boom, that vacuum has been opened up and you journey down the birth canal and you get covered, you get coated in your mother's bacteria. You inherit her microbiome, which sets up your digestion, your immune system, your health for life. Right? So first down that birth canal, then straight to the breast, the colostrum, that first milk, you're getting further bacteria that then is coating the inside of you. And that is laying your microbiome. And then it becomes a journey of continuing to maintain that, feeding yourself the right foods, right? A lot of us have issues and troubles with our microbiome because they don't thrive off of the standard American diet. They don't thrive off of packaged and processed foods, right? It's the candida, it's the other things. That's where we can get that imbalance. You might start off with a good microbiome, but we're not feeding them well. And they're up to so many challenges with antibiotics, with antibacterial soaps, this, that, the next things, chemicals, you name it. There's so much that there's kind of an assault on your microbiome that these foods, these fermented foods, are essential to your health, foundational to your health, to continue to feed them, right, with the right types of fibers. This is the idea of the prebiotics. And then these living bacteria that can replenish and become part of your microbiome. So fermented foods, I'm going to save that one. All right, we've got a question. Are fermented foods good for people with ulcers? So as I mentioned, I'm jumping on today. We're going to go through the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods. But this is just the beginning of a series of a number of conversations, a number of live videos that I really encourage you to join in on about fermented foods. And I have some special guest experts, Dr. Melina Roberts. She's a naturopath. We're going to have her on tomorrow at 3 o'clock, 3:30 will probably get started. So make sure you join us. And this is all leading up to the Calgary Fermentation Festival. And it's just a part of my efforts, my inspiration to get more people fermenting. And if you're already fermenting, expanding what you're fermenting, doing more fermentation, really getting into the spirit, because there's so many benefits. And that's what we're talking about. So number 2, foundational to your health, the digestive piece in terms of pre-digestion, helping you digest foods that you maybe otherwise couldn't, or your body has a harder time digesting. We talked about bread, we talked about milk. And then also feeding and increasing your microbiome. Now, of course, this microbiome, it's a hot trend. Someone had mentioned that on Instagram. Yeah, fermented foods. And thank goodness, I'm so glad that it's a trend. And I hesitate using that word because a trend maybe implies that, it's going to drop off. This is like the longest standing trend ever because it's so essential to our health. We absolutely need fermented foods. We've had the experience of moving away from them. If anything, that was the trend. The trend was, refrigeration and canning. And, I'm not saying those are bad, but that was one of the main factors that pushed fermented foods out of our diet. So that was a trend that is coming to an end. Now we're bringing these guys in. So microbiome, these bacteria, these probiotics, of course, it's digestion. We hear all the time that relation to the gut and our ability to digest these foods. It's also our immune system. Our gut is in our immune system, and we need a good, healthy microbiome. And probiotics, fermented foods, are going to help feed that, support that. And then the third really important reason, of which there is more science, I love it, it's just going to keep coming out more and more. What are all these benefits? The third is that gut-brain connection, right? The mind, the body, feeling good of this idea of even neurotransmitters like serotonin being produced by the bacteria uplifting our mood, right? Staving off depression, ability to focus, concentration, ADD, all these things have been connected to an imbalance in the microbiome. So that's kind of the cutting edge, where it's all going. It's been proven, it's being proven time and time again. We have a customer, in fact, some of her children were diagnosed autism on that spectrum. And when she got seriously into fermented foods, upgraded her children's diet, her own diet, the whole family changed. Those children, they moved up the spectrum, some to the point where it's like, well, we don't even see that this is even, we could even call them on the spectrum, just from adding in fermented foods. So in so many ways, foundational to our health. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods. The first is that function of preservation. Number 2 is a big long one. We unpacked it, which was getting into that it's foundational to our health. And the third, so I got my notes here. Where is it? The third, oh, this is the big one. This is the big one. This one you can use to convince anyone who maybe is like, there's you know the type, right? They're like, oh, you're into health, health foods. They're kind of skeptical, right? Or they just don't care yet. So this is the one that you can, if they're not interested in having fermented foods for whatever reason, this is the one that you can get them in on this reason alone. So this is number 3, which is flavor, right? The flavor of fermented foods. Everyone loves fermented foods, one or another, and I bet you there's probably even foods that actually are fermented, and it's the reason you love it, and you just don't even know yet. Let me give you an example. Chocolate, fermented. And I bet you one of the reasons why you love it is because of that key, absolutely essential step, fermentation. Coffee, tea, there's like 3 big ones all around the world that people are consuming en masse, and it's a different experience. Like green tea is black tea is actually green tea that's been fermented. Goes through an oxidization process. There you go. Coffee, chocolate. Those are just some examples. Never mention like beer, wine, cheese. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And it's flavor. So number 3, and again, this is not in order of importance, that we're talking about the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods, and number 3, absolutely flavor. And here's a little trivia for you. Okay, get ready to type in your comments. I'm just going to give you guys a minute to reflect on the answer. What is the predominant flavor of fermented foods? Who can tell me? Is it sweet? Is it sour? Is it salty? Is it bitter? All right, kombucha. Well, there's an example. What's the flavor of kombucha? Giving you a moment. If you're on Facebook, I know I can see people are watching. Type in your comments. Just take a wild guess. All right, Stacy Noble, awesome. She's throwing in salty. And I would say that's number 2, absolutely. Most ferments, if you think about it, right? Pickles, sauerkraut, these kinds of things, there is that salty element. However, it's not the most predominant one. Salty sour. Oh, lighten up. She's got sweet, sour. All right, it's a debate going on. Instagram is rocking it. We got lots of good comments coming in. Those guys are going to try. Facebook, what do you got for me? We got Brent. He's contemplating it. All right, so the winners are our fans on Facebook or Instagram here. Sorry, Angela, lighten up. So it is in fact sour. It's sour. And yes, for sure. Okay, Lynn, you got it. Facebook, right? So yes, salty is a big part of it, but sour is so huge. Sauerkraut, sour pickles, sour cream, all these flavors. So most ferments are in the acidic or sour end of the spectrum. And if you think about it, what are some of the bacteria that you know that are responsible for fermentation? They're called Acidophilus, Lactobacillus acidophilus. There's probably the most common, the most predominant bacteria that might be referenced, in yogurt cultures, this type of thing. Now that term acid philos meaning loving, acid loving vinegar. There's another one, right? Produced by acetic acid producing bacteria, Lactobacillus acidophilus. Lactose doesn't, or in this case, lacto doesn't mean as in, yeah, there we go. She's got it. Lactobacillus doesn't mean milk. It means lactic acid producing bacteria. So it's a byproduct that the bacteria, as they're digesting the fibers, as they're eating the sugars, they're releasing these beneficial acids. It's exactly why kombucha has an acidic flavor, vinegar, acid. They all have their various ranges on the pH scale, but almost all ferments are in that acidic spectrum. Not all. Some are neutral, some are alkaline. What are some examples of alkaline ferments? Well, certain cheeses, right? Like if you get that like ammonia-like smell, like the blue cheeses, the bries, the camemberts, those types of ripe cheeses, those are alkaline ferments. Tempeh, miso, umeboshi plum, those are also alkaline ferments, but majority of the other ones actually are on that acidic spectrum. So flavor, right? That wasn't there before. When you just taste cabbage, it's good, it's wonderful, but I far prefer the flavor of cabbage fermented as sauerkraut. It's so much more depth and complexity, just like wine, just like chocolate, all these foods that we love, the flavor's been enhanced, it's been deeply made more complex through the action of these bacteria and these ferments. All right, so that's number 3. We're going through the 5 fantastic benefits of fermented foods. We did number 1, number 2, number 3. I'm not going to recap them in this moment, but I'll do it again later. Number 4, what is it? Let me check my notes here because I'm doing it all by memory. I write these things down. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so flavor, we got function, foundation of health, flavor. Oh yeah, okay, this is a good one. This is a good one. It's fun. Isn't it? Right? Making your own fermented foods. I have so much fun doing this stuff. And I have met people that they, you know the type. They don't do anything in the kitchen, right? Either because they don't know how, or they just don't feel comfortable, right? It's just not their space. We all have our own thing. We all have our own jam, right? Things that we love to do. Maybe they don't have time. Whatever it is, a friend of mine's dad, he's that type of character. Never in the kitchen, right? He got into fermenting. That's his thing. That's his contribution to the family. He loves it, right? He found his passion. He's like, okay, I can get into that. And the great thing about fermentation is it's so diverse, right? We got a comment here. Angela, she loves fermented red tomatoes, right? The taste of it, maybe you like making it too. It's so fun when you get into the craft of fermentation. And I have seen so many transformation stories. Yeah, on the health side, like I said at the beginning, do one thing, add in fermented foods, your health is going to increase. I'm going to say, as you add that in, make sure at least one type of ferment that you consume, you make yourself. Your benefits will exponentially increase, and one of those is having fun in the kitchen. All right, Instagram made a comment. You did with grandmother as a child, right? Those big winning containers. There's something so connective and fun about being in the kitchen with your loved ones, even just yourself, just hanging out, making stuff, right? Just you and the bacteria, doing your thing and making the magic happen. So absolutely fun in the kitchen. It's a part of health. It's a part of our journey. Just pick one thing, if you're not doing it already, that you can start to ferment, to have some fun with. And of course, I'm going to say that's the gateway, right? Don't just pick one, but if you're like me, if you're like some others that are watching here, ooh, we're like knee deep. All right, let's get waist deep. Let's go all the way in. Let's turn in our kitchens into laboratories, right? Let's fill up that pantry. Let's fill up that fridge, the fermentation fridge, because you got so much stuff that you've been concocting and enjoying that you need extra storage space just for those things. Because yeah, it comes with a love, it comes with a passion, and you'll develop a deeper relationship to yourself, to your food, and your health will improve just purely through the fun of fermenting foods. All right, so that's fermentation benefit number 4. And the last one, the 5 fantastic benefits of fermentation. It's free. You can do it, right? You grow the food, you get the food, however it is, to add this next magical step, which transforms it into health benefits, which transforms it into fun and into flavor, all this stuff like value add to the max. It's free. We can do it. Anyone can do it. There is no bar to fermentation. There's no entry level. People all around the world have been fermenting literally on dirt floors, in the jungle, tops of mountains all around the world. Everyone can have access to it, and it's absolutely free. Those bacteria are freely, abundantly available, and it's about you developing the relationship with them and getting your ferment on. All right, you guys excited? Get your ferment on. Are you stoked? Are you inspired? If you're in Calgary, you got to join us October 13th. We're already past September 13th. October 13th. The Fermentation Festival. It's going to be so fun. It's all day from 9 till 6. Doors open at 9, closes at 6. We have vendors all day. We'll have some food trucks out there. And most importantly, diving into the art and the craft of fermentation. So you can develop these skills. So you can leave that day knowing how to ferment. Whether it's one thing or 10 things, there are 3 different presentations during 5 slots throughout the day that you can dive in. Maybe the science is your thing, and you want to hear from Melina, right? Diving into the microbiome. Maybe you want to get into kombucha and you want to learn about secondary fermentation and how to build that fizz in a bottle. We have workshops for that. So that's happening October 13th on Facebook. There's a link down below. On Instagram, you can find it at calgaryfermentationfestival.com. You can also direct message us. We'll send you the link. October 13th, it's happening. But leading up until then, almost every day, we're going to try and do it every day, but as much as we can, we're going to be doing these live videos. So make sure you tune back in tomorrow. Dr. Melina Roberts, naturopathic doctor, she'll be on. She'll be my guest. We're going to do it in the range of somewhere 3 to 4 p.m. If you can join us live, awesome. There was a couple of questions. I want to get those answered as well. And when she's on, you'll get a sense of who she is and where she's coming from, and you'll want to be able to ask your questions. So hop on there. Love to see you there. Check out the website, calgaryfermentationfestival.com. The schedule's up. Everything's ready to go. Love to see you there. Thanks for tuning in. Give this video a like. If you haven't, give it a share. And stay tuned for more, because this is the time. This is the season for fermentation. And if you're just joining us, make sure you catch the replay. We went through the 5 fantastic benefits of fermentation. They are good. They are wonderful. We all need to eat more fermented foods and make more fermented foods. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time. All right, hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to go to calgaryfermentationfestival.com, check out the schedule, register, get your ticket. There are still just a small number in the early bird available right now, so take advantage of that for sure. And remember, when you purchase your ticket, you're automatically entered in to that grand prize package, the ultimate fermentation kit. I mean, we just keep adding things. The value keeps growing. It's now over $300. And it could be yours. Got to be at the festival. Got to get a ticket to enter to win. See you there.